We're here today because every one of us is experiencing an unprecedented time in our nation's and our world's history. We've all been watching the headlines unfold, and our own lives have been affected as we've experienced social distancing and rapid shifts in how schools, businesses, and various industries operate. In every major media outlet, the story right now is the rapid spread of the coronavirus. Right on its heels is the corresponding volatility on Wall Street. We're all being reminded that there is much that's out of our personal control, but in the midst of the mayhem, there remains an awful lot that is well within our control. Our goal today is to provide an objective look at how world events can affect the markets, what this could ultimately mean to you, and what three concrete actions you can be taking right now to help protect yourself financially. No matter where you turn right now, whether it's the TV, the radio, or scrolling through your phone, news of coronavirus rules the day. The World Health Organization declared the coronavirus outbreak a global pandemic on March 11th, as the virus spread worldwide and death tolls climbed. Leaders and healthcare workers across Europe grappled with the contagion days or weeks ahead of the US. In Italy, overwhelmed hospitals provided a sobering picture of the challenges a rapid infection rate could cause. Here at home, we have moved quickly to stop the spread, canceling large gatherings from schools to sports to churches, and spending weeks practicing the now familiar social distancing. Unfortunately, the market is not immune to these challenges or emotions. Markets hate uncertainty, and we've experienced more than our share of that. Those in the know are doing all they can to keep people from panicking. But as we all know, those in the know and those in the media can often be two very different creatures. And as the media has fed the flames of panic, so tends to follow the world. As the world follows, so generally go the markets. Some of you likely have been sitting like this recently, looking at your accounts or at news headlines, watching what's been happening. On Monday, March 16th, 2020, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell nearly 13%, down more than 2,900 points, and a percentage loss second only to the 23% decline of Black Monday on October 19th, 1987. That same day, the S&P 500 fell nearly 12%, wiping out its 2019 gains. You know, sometimes we hear percentages and terms like S&P or the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and frankly, our minds kind of glaze over, right? Because truth be told, not all of us are mathematicians or market followers, and not everyone has a clue what the heck the S&P or Dow Jones even is. If that's you, you're not alone. We're actually hearing that a lot with people who are contacting us for answers right now. But let's make this incredibly simple for a second. Let's pretend for a moment that you had put your retirement savings directly into the S&P 500 on Monday, March 16th, 2020. Well, I don't even know what the S&P is. How could I be invested in it? The S&P 500, or the S&P as it's often called, is nothing more than an index, or a barometer, if you will, that measures the stock performance of 500 large companies listed on stock exchanges in the United States. Many people consider it to be one of the best representations of the US stock market. So let's say that you had an even $500,000 invested in the S&P 500 at 8 a.m. on Monday, March 16th, 2020. What if you needed to access your money at promptly 5 p.m. that day? You'd have had $440,000 remaining in your account following a nearly 12% loss. In other words, $60,000 of your investment would have disappeared in the market that day alone. To be clear, this isn't taking into account any further market decline on other days. Now, many financial advisors may say something here like, yeah, but that's just the nature of the market, everyone. There are bound to be ups and downs. We all just have to weather the storms every now and then. It's just the nature of investing. However, some retirees and soon-to-bes have a tough time hearing that they should just wait it out. Many folks have worked all their lives, many well over 40 years, to get to this stage. This wonderful stage in which the finish line is finally within sight. Retirement and all the many dreams they've deferred are just a few short yards away. People like this have a really hard time hearing, hey, never mind $60,000 of your hard earned savings, money that likely took you years to accumulate. Never mind it disappearing in a matter of hours. Just weather the storm. Frankly, there are a lot of things that men and women just like this hear from advisors all the time that they likely shouldn't. For instance, many of you have heard an advisor talk about something called the 4% rule. The 4% rule is a simple but pretty archaic rule of thumb that has to do with how much of your retirement savings you can safely take out or live off each year without presumably running out of money. For decades, advisors have been using this little rule with their clients. Unfortunately, there's now all sorts of research showing that depending upon market performance and your specific lifespan and situation, you may not be able to pull anywhere close to 4% of your retirement savings out each year without running out of money. In other words, following this supposed rule is a little like betting the farm on the Farmer's Almanac. You can if you want to, but I wouldn't recommend it. But let's say you did. Let's say you've been following the 4% rule and you've got your $500,000 again invested in the market. And at 4% per year, that means you'd be withdrawing $20,000 annually in income. If that had been the case, then on March 16, 2020, you'd have lost nearly 3 years worth of retirement income in just 9 hours. 3 years of income that may have taken you years to accumulate, gone in hours. And yet, we're often just told to ride it out and somehow everything will just turn out okay. So what do we do right now? If you could literally be losing money while sitting here watching this video, what should you be doing? Well, first, we should likely talk. A 15-minute phone call or a virtual meeting with our team could help put a number of things in perspective for you and likely help determine what your exact next steps really should be. Because the real answer to the question, what should you be doing, unlike someone who's just telling everyone to simply wait it out or run in the other direction, liquidate all your investments and run to cash, the real answer to that question is, it depends. Every single one of you has unique circumstances. No two of you are invested exactly the same. None of you have the exact same goals or visions of what retirement should look like. A few of you are inherently greater risk takers by nature and in pursuit of every dime the markets might offer. And if so, the past decade has been a great run for you. Some of you have heard the term bull market. A bull market is simply a time in the market when stock prices are rising or expected to rise. And the longest running bull market in history celebrated its 10-year anniversary on March 9th of 2019. That's a decade of a rising market. So for those of you who are into grabbing every dime in the market you could, it's been a great run. But there are also others of you right now watching this video who have grown way more risk averse as you've aged. You realize that as you're getting closer to living off the money you've accumulated, you don't want much to do with risking that pile of money. So you're actually 100% okay with taking a little less return simply to help minimize your risk. So regardless of whether you'd consider yourself a member of the first group, the daredevils in the market, or the second group, those happier pulling back the reins a little and knowing for a fact what they have to live on, there are 3 things everyone watching right now should be doing. The first thing in a time like this that is wise for everyone to have done is a simple risk exposure review. Regardless of where you'd consider yourself on the risk spectrum, whether you think you're a risk taker or a super conservative type, every one of you would be wise to know what your actual risk exposure currently is. The vast majority of retirees and soon-to-bes consider themselves somewhat conservative, and yet, when they have a risk exposure review done, they often find out, while their minds say they're conservative and couldn't really stomach much risk anymore, their portfolios often say otherwise, with a significant portion of their retirement assets exposed to market risk. Don't let this be you. A simple risk exposure review is all you need to find out exactly what percentage of your assets are exposed to risk and therefore in jeopardy as markets decline. A risk exposure review is simply a review of your current assets to see how much risk they are exposed to, and what it does is show you how much of your retirement money you currently stand to lose should the markets continue to drop or correct. But what that really means to you is that before things continue to happen on Wall Street, you have the ability to see its impact, to play worst case scenario, if you will, and make adjustments now if you're not okay with that outcome. The second thing every one of you should be doing right now is sitting down to have a retirement income analysis done for you. Now, while a retirement income analysis may sound like something complicated from NASA, it's not. A retirement income analysis is nothing more than an analysis of the different sources of income you plan to use in retirement. This might include your 401k, maybe an IRA, maybe for a few of you a pension, maybe some other investments that you plan to tap into, maybe even some personal savings. And what this retirement analysis does is analyze these different pockets of money to determine exactly which you should reach into first, exactly how long each one will last, and how you should leverage each one most strategically to ensure you have paychecks that you create for yourself that last as long as you live. The single biggest concern of many retirees is simply, will we actually have enough? Will we outlive our money? But did you know that you don't have to wonder about that? Did you know that you can have that question mathematically and definitively answered for good? That's exactly what a retirement income analysis provides. Finally, every retiree and soon-to-be should be sitting down with someone right now to get a truly holistic financial plan together. If you're not sure if you already have one, here are a few simple questions to ask yourself. 1. Have I been resting completely easy these past few weeks as I watch the markets dropping? 2. Do I know exactly how I'll generate my own paychecks in retirement and how long they'll last? 3. Do I understand all of the products and investments I own and how they work together for me? If your answer to any of those 3 questions was no, there's a very good chance you have a portfolio rather than a plan. Having a portfolio is actually a lot like having a junk drawer in the kitchen. We all have one. You know there are some really valuable things in there. It's just you don't really know where, and you don't know where to find them when you need them. People just like you, people who have been working with an advisor for 10 to 15 years, oftentimes they have a great portfolio. They just don't have a plan. Or if they do have a plan, it's way too complicated. And in retirement, complexity creates uncertainty. And the time to know and understand your plan for retirement is now. We began a few minutes ago asking if the coronavirus could infect your retirement. The truth of the matter is, it could. Indirectly, of course, but it could. And for some of you, it may very well already have. But you don't have to continue wondering about that. We've all been to the doctor before. Some of us really concerned about a possible diagnosis. Well, when it comes to your financial diagnosis, we all want to be told, you have nothing to worry about. You're going to be just fine. The first step to hearing those words is simply having a phone call with a member of our team. This call has absolutely no strings attached and is a simple way for you to determine if a complimentary risk exposure review, retirement income analysis, or holistic financial plan would benefit you. Here's what the call is not. It's not a member of our team sitting on the other end of the line pitching you something or telling you to grab your checkbook. It's not us recommending a product or some mysterious investment you should turn to in the midst of this crisis. Instead, it's just us asking some key questions, genuinely listening to your concerns, and determining exactly which next steps would benefit you most. It starts with a simple phone call. With all that's going on right now, there may be plenty of things to worry about, but your financial future does not have to be one of them. We are here to handle that. Contact us now to get started and get the answers you deserve.